Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Daredevil Born Again Episode 5 and Episode 6 video. They aired both episodes back to back, mostly because they were relatively short episodes, but because they wanted to get to him being back in the Daredevil suit, being full Daredevil again as quickly as possible. But there are a whole bunch of cameo scenes in both episodes, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Episode 5 was titled With Interest. It's a reference to Matt's bank loan he's trying to get from Kamala Khan's father Yusuf at his bank. There were so many rich people in the episodes, maybe Swordsman can help Daredevil out with all of his money problems. Anytime a Marvel character is trying to get a bank loan, like they did this during Falcon and Winter Soldier, both Matt and Falcon were denied. I mean, he's Captain America now, but at the time he was Falcon trying to get a bank loan. You always think of that classic Anchorman joke. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. We're also going to be seeing Human Torch later this summer in the Fantastic Four movie. Matt basically winds up stopping the bank robbers, who are the Irish gang from one of Kingpin's lesser gangs as part of that big gang war they're having, and he still doesn't wind up getting the bank loan, which is actually the correct move. If you've ever tried to get a bank loan, you actually do have to show like a really solid source of income, otherwise they will give you zero money. But there were a whole bunch of references to Miss Marvel and to Matt going to Jersey City to hang out with him and his family and meet his daughter, Miss Marvel, who has her own Funkos now, Miss Marvel Funko Pops, so that he can help Matt learn how to make more money with his law firm in a more legit kind of way. Mission number 1 will probably be taking on some more paying clients. Like, that's the first thing that he needs to do, is find some clients that'll actually pay him a bunch of money. But there are a couple funny moments where Matt is trying to give him this heartfelt speech about the need that he serves inside the city. Like, people need us. We do an important thing. And he's right about that. It's a very heartfelt speech. But they also slightly kind of imply that Miss Marvel herself might need his services as a really good lawyer eventually. There are a whole bunch of Young Avengers references during that too, so we'll get to that in a second. I'll explain what was going on with that, because they are working on a Young Avengers project, a TV show in the MCU, but it won't actually be happening for a while. This episode was primarily just meant to be the bank heist itself, like the entire episode is just the bank heist. They only make a slight change to the intro titles in the credits, and it's the same thing with episode 6. They just added the special guest stars, like the cameo scene people, in the actual titles themselves. Really easy way to find out that there's a special cameo coming in the episode. They put them in the titles. Mohan Kapoor is the actor who plays Kamala Khan's father. We've seen him a couple times in the MCU already, and he'll just continue coming back whenever they need people to do stuff like this. Part of the idea is that he's the assistant bank manager at one of the banks that Matt has gone to on St. Patrick's Day to try and get the loan for his new law firm. He basically just commutes to the city from Jersey City every day, like a lot of people commute to Manhattan for work from outside the city. My guess is they used St. Patrick's Day just because they wanted so many Irish references. Like, the gang itself is the Irish gang that belongs part of Kingpin's larger organization. Matt himself bonds with him over them both being of Irish descent, like the Murdochs are an Irish family. And they use all the Lucky Charms references when they're breaking into the vault to get the diamond. But the way they play it in the episode is that the original bank manager that was going to be helping Matt is late that day because of some emergency, so it winds up being Kamala Khan's father, who's the assistant manager, that just takes over the loan application that he's submitted, which by their standards is not enough to get him the actual loan. Like, he's basically denied the loan. All because he does so much pro bono work for clients that don't have any money. Turns out defending Spider-Man, really good for the city, but really bad if you want to earn money.
I'm a really good lawyer.
You notice on his desk there are a couple Easter eggs. He's got a World's Greatest Dad mug. He makes many references to his daughter, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, even though he doesn't say that his daughter is Miss Marvel. He just talks about Miss Marvel and about his daughter separately. With them using the joke that Matt has not heard of Miss Marvel, like, Miss Marvel, I don't know who you're talking about. What? What do you mean? My assumption is that it's just because what happened during Miss Marvel Season 1 wasn't big enough to actually make the news, or somebody tamped down on the news and kept it quiet. That was basically meant to be a big black eye for damage control, like the whole Department of Damage Control, which is a government organization now, kind of like Homeland Security. So my assumption is they probably just tried to keep that as quiet as possible. You notice that he is dressed in proper green St. Patrick's Day attire, but then tells Matt that he should beware of being pinched because he's not wearing green. Obviously, green is not Daredevil's color. He's not going to be wearing green. But they use the reference to him beware of bad luck because of the bank heist that's about to happen. Then he actually gets a phone call from Miss Marvel, who's in California. He says La La Land. That's usually a reference to Hollywood, but the idea is that I think she's meant to be in California visiting Cassie Lang, who lives in San Francisco with the rest of the Ant-Man characters, along with Shang-Chi as well too. When he says she's there visiting a friend, it's part of that mission, like she just visited Kate Bishop in the post-credit scene for the Marvels movie to start setting up the Young Avengers. She's basically doing that with Cassie Lang in San Francisco in California now. There are actually a bunch of big Marvel heroes that live on the West Coast now, and mostly in the MCU it's a West Coast Avengers kind of reference, but a lot of them are adult heroes. The only young character that Kamala Khan would think of as a friend would be Cassie Lang. But remember, Daredevil went to Los Angeles during She-Hulk because that's where she lives, and he was getting his suits made there. We'll actually be getting the Wonder Man episodes at the end of this year. He's also in Hollywood in Los Angeles. He gets really excited about the Miss Marvel Funko Pop. It's a custom. You can actually get custom Funko Pops made as gifts to other people. But I think this is also a sly reference to the Miss Marvel merch that Marvel also sells. Like, you can actually buy these Funko Pops now. When he mentions David versus Goliath, that's also a bit of a metaphor for his battle against Kingpin, because small versus very large Kingpin, who's getting larger, like we see him get a little fatter during this episode, like, oh, I'm ripping my jackets. All those big dinners in his torture basement are making him fatter and fatter. You could also look at the Goliath reference as another Giant Man reference, because Cassie Lang can also grow huge Giant Man style too. Then we learn the Irish, who've been ordered to pay the $1.8 million restitution to the factions per Vanessa's orders, are going to steal the diamond and use that as a form of payment. There's a real quick joke about AT&T being a crappy phone company. Maybe somebody at Marvel or in the writer's room just absolutely hates them. That's usually how you wind up being turned into a joke like this. They run in wearing different colored masks. They are the color of the Infinity Stones. It's the orange diamond that provides the 6th Infinity Stone, because they also make a bit of an Infinity Stone reference when they pull it out too. But I also kind of looked at this episode in the bank robbers as being a Reservoir Dogs reference, because they all refer to each other as their colors, not as actual names. And because, just like the Reservoir Dogs movie plot, this bank heist goes very, very badly for the robbers. There's a whole lot of comedy in the episode too, like Matt casually walking in pretending like he doesn't know what's going on, like, oh hey, what's up? They make fun of him, making a Stevie Wonder blind person reference. Then he goes into full Daredevil mode to show him sensing all the different guns, and eventually makes his way to slowly start taking out all the different robbers one at a time. When Devlin, the leader, says of the cops, they do them, we do us, it implies that some of the cops are actually dirty, maybe have something to do with Kingpin and Vanessa, because the boss that he keeps referring to that's basically telling them to do this is Vanessa. She's the person that gave them the orders to pay the restitution.
We do what the boss told us to do.
So they kind of make it sound like there's going to be an exit for them, like there are dirty cops that are going to allow them to get away. But they also imply that the cops found out that they were entering the bank as they were entering, like before any shots actually went off, and that's how they got here so fast. I think the idea there is that Matt called when he heard them enter the bank for the first time. So he probably called the police before all the power went out. When Yusuf reveals that he can't actually open the bank vault, that's also a thing in real life too. It's actually really hard for people, like any one person, to open a bank vault. And they also had the funny moment later with one of the other hostages being like, there's nothing in that bank vault, just a whole bunch of safety deposit boxes. That is also very true of real life. Usually it takes a couple different people to open a bank vault. They change the code all the time, and most of the time, there isn't even any cash inside bank vaults. If there is cash inside one, it's only for like a very, very brief period. So unless there is something really special in a safety deposit box that you actually want to steal, as is the case with these bank robbers, you would be mistaken in trying to rob a bank vault. Like, it would just be a waste of time. But at least the way they explain it in the episode, the Irish knew the entire time that they were after the diamond. They didn't care about any cash. There are a couple new cops that we meet who arrive on the scene, Rodriguez and Angie Kim. We find out that Angie Kim gets tied to the Muse storyline later, and she also might get tied to the whole Punisher cops storyline too, which also picks up in the next episode. When Devlin gives her the fake name as Jesse James, that's actually a real-life outlaw during the 1800s. He was a bank robber. He led a group called the Younger Gang. He's a very, very famous outlaw. Matt then convinces them to let him stay, bonding over them both being Irish. And we find out that the other girl who complains to him, asking him to chill out, was in with the gang the whole time. Like, she was the person on the inside that they tried to pass the diamond to at the end of the episode. Very common of a bank heist, there's always an inside person on the job. Then Matt uses the excuse of going to the bathroom to actually start taking out the different robbers one at a time. Notice that Matt yoinks the red hood first to try and disguise himself later when he puts it on. Also kind of reminds you of him putting the original black costume on before he got the red costume the first time. And even though he does put the costume back on in episode 6, for those of you asking about the new black costume, like the black helmet that's sitting there, like will he wear the Shadowland costume or is that the Back in Black costume? We actually just learned that he will be wearing the black suit during season 2. We will see if he winds up wearing some of these other costumes too during season 2. Maybe during season 3, they'll probably save some stuff for season 3. Matt then saves Yusuf at the last second and does a fairly convincing job of mimicking the Irish accent. He does have some Irish in him, so he's actually probably pretty good at it already. And uses his superior senses to break into the vault. So if you've never seen it before, or you've never seen it in the comics before, Matt is able to rob banks if he really wanted to. They make another Miss Marvel reference saying that Yusuf gave her a piggy bank to teach her a lesson, but isn't totally sure if she actually learned any lessons, because that's kind of the vibe between the two of them during Miss Marvel or the Marvels movie if you haven't seen either of those. He makes the really good lawyer joke from Spider-Man No Way Home again, and they eventually figure out that the Irish were after the diamond the whole time, like they didn't care about the cash. The orange, like I said, is meant to be the Infinity Stone reference, like completing the Infinity Gauntlet reference, because now we have all 6 different colors. There's a lot of witty banter going on between Devlin and the lead police detective. I wasn't a huge fan of that part of the episode. That felt like it kind of drugged things down, but all the stuff with Matt and Yusuf taking out the robbers was great. Love that part of the episode.
You can't just crack it open like it's a piggy bank I gave Kamala.
Matt then causes the distraction to allow the cops to bust in while they start catching people, and then uses the Red Hood to go after both the woman who tried to take the diamond and swap it out for a piece of candy, and take out the lead Devlin robber. Love the scene of him just wailing on him in that Red Hood. Devlin probably never going to walk again. Him swapping the diamond for the candy is also impetus for Luca to have the meeting with Kingpin in episode 6 too, sort of setting that up as things descend the war between all the different gangs. But then Matt goes back the next day to slip the diamond back into the candy bowl, play a little joke on Yusuf, and they say they're going to hang out at his house in Jersey City for dinner, and he's going to help him try to make more money with his law firm, like legit try to help him. So apparently we're going to get a Daredevil Miss Marvel crossover at some time, but the way they talk about it, they imply that this dinner that he's going to be having in Jersey City with his family might not happen till like after Daredevil season 1 or season 2 at some point, like way off in the future. Generally one of the shortest episodes of the season so far, probably one of the reasons why they aired 2 episodes at the same time so that it felt like an entire hour worth of television. Episode 6 title was Excessive Force, which is a reference to Kingpin's anti-vigilante task force that he puts together with all the Punisher cops. So now we're starting to figure out how this task force gets formed that we're seeing in the season 2 footage that we've already been getting. Seems like this task force, basically Kingpin winds up using as his personal attack dogs, basically just letting them do whatever they want to do. The way he explains it is giving them special privileges, no body cams, basically allowing them to use excessive force and for it to be totally above board and legal, the way that he's doing it. Eventually using them to basically just go after every single superhero and vigilante in the city. Like, doesn't matter if they're bad or good vigilantes, it includes Spider-Man, Daredevil, pretty much everybody, including Punisher. But also because they're the Punisher cops, like it's tied to the whole Punisher storyline in the season, we'll probably get more of Frank Castle real soon. They started the episode with another BB report, this time talking about Muse's graffiti murals, how vigilantes are helping people, the police are bad, to sort of set up the storyline with the Punisher cops and this anti-vigilante task force. There's a real huge Easter egg for Swordsman from Hawkeye, who's back for a big cameo scene in this episode, Jack Duquesne, who turned into a vigilante since the events of the Hawkeye series. They kind of alluded to that at the end of Hawkeye, when they were all being carted out by the police and the medics were treating them. He was like, hey, this is kind of fun, maybe I'll do this more often now. But if it wasn't clear, Jack Duquesne, Swordsman, is meant to be a good character, like he's helping people as a vigilante. That's one of the reasons why he challenges Kingpin so ardently during the episode, like I said, you better watch out, basically throwing a gauntlet to him, warning him about dealing with all the rich people in New York City. But a really big part of their conversation was him yelling at Kingpin about his plan going after vigilantes and how he didn't like it because he himself is a vigilante. Then they go to Red Hook, showing one of Muse's victims after he's finished with him in a city worker taking down the graffiti mural, or trying to, but not being able to set the whole storyline with them figuring out what's going on with Muse just in general. Like, the Muse plot thickens a lot. Then we go to Daredevil at the beginning of the morning saying a prayer while remembering Foggy with the flyer from his memorial. Remember, he's been wearing that inside his jacket every day since Foggy died, or since he thinks Foggy died, because we're all kind of wondering if this is going to be a huge misdirect. We will see if Foggy turns up at some point. There's a bunch of different flashbacks to show you Matt remembering things as he's saying his prayer, a flashback to Foggy's death, then the robbery in the previous episode, with him thinking about protecting people. He remembers White Tiger in prison, the diner meeting with Kingpin, like the Heat diner scene, the robbery again, then the bullseye fight at Josie's where he threw him off the building trying to kill him. Some of those are to foreshadow what happens in the next couple episodes too. Like, eventually we will see Bullseye again. Like, we'll find out what's happened to Bullseye since we last saw him, because it does seem like he's going to wind up breaking out of prison. We find out that Heather Glenn doesn't seem all that religious, thinks it's kind of weird that Matt still prays. When he says he's been on again, off again, but always winds up coming back to his faith, it's also a bit of a reference to all of his adventures during Daredevil Netflix series in The Defenders, and him eventually coming back to being Daredevil again. Like, there was a period during Daredevil Season 3 after Defenders where he kind of quit and then decided to become Daredevil again. And he's kind of doing that right now. Like, this episode, he finally decides to fully become Daredevil again. Like, screw it. I'll be Daredevil again. Then we go to Kingpin's aide, who reminds him about his busy schedule of meetings, the black tie event that he's going to tonight with Swordsman and all the other New York City rich people that he's trying to get money for the port from. Luca then surprises him because the Irish didn't get that diamond, they can't pay yet, and he's basically trying to challenge him. Kingpin probably going to wind up killing this dude. They treat this whole scene as sort of a violation. Kingpin feels like it's a violation. It felt a lot like Daredevil Season 1 when the Russians interrupted his dinner with Vanessa, and it did not end well for the Russian, one of the most brutal deaths that we've seen during the Daredevil series, period. So early guess, things are going to wind up ending in a similar way for Luca. You try to throw hands at Kingpin, challenge him, and see what happens. Who, remember, is on a similar arc to Matt. So Matt sort of goes back to his darker self. He becomes Daredevil again in this episode. Kingpin basically slides back into Kingpin mode in this episode in a couple of different ways. One of them eventually going to be the way he deals with Luca. You notice he starts to get this really stabby look on his face as he gets real close with Luca, while Heather Glenn separately is talking to Matt about meeting with vigilantes, the book that she's writing on vigilantes, how she wants to meet with Punisher for the book, which makes him laugh at her because probably he thinks that Frank would never want to actually meet with him. Like, Punisher would hate having to sit and talk to someone for a book. Then she asks to meet Daredevil. Obviously, she doesn't know that Matt is Daredevil because he hasn't been Daredevil since Foggy died, so it's not even possible for her to know that. Then they show the opening credits. Just like in the last episode, they add Tony Dalton to the credits because he's the big cameo in this episode. They seem like they're doing that for every single episode. Really good way of finding out who the big cameo is going to be. We go back to Muse's Kingpin mural again, which winds up vexing him later. It seems like he goes a little bit nuts, too, staring at it. And someone from sanitation basically explains that the reason why they can't remove them is because of the chemicals used to make them are actually using human blood. There's a special epoxy that just prevents them from taking them down. They set up the whole Muse fight at the end of the episode where White Tiger's niece comes to see him, Angela, to tell him about the case that he was working on when he died. The missing people is because of Muse, kidnapping people from around the city and using them to paint his murals. They also hint at her eventually taking up the mantle of White Tiger. When she talks about doing things yourself, like Thanos style, fine, I'll do it myself, and she goes out to try and find out what's going on with Track 61 and all the Muse stuff, it's just implying more of her future of becoming White Tiger, taking the mantle eventually. Then Kingpin hauls in the commissioner that he blackmailed, and they start going over all the evidence on Muse. The 12 murals that they could find, we've seen some of them on the show already, implying that there are about 18 total so far, and we've seen about 60 victims to make all of them, because it takes a couple people's blood to make a single mural. Notice they also bring back the detective from the heist, confirming she's going to be a bigger part of this whole storyline. Maybe she'll get involved with the Punisher cops, too. And Kingpin starts laughing because it's his knowledge he's gained while becoming Kingpin of crime, like the actual bad stuff that he's learned that allows him to figure out the best course of action in dealing with Muse. So he's on this parallel arc with Matt, like I said, who's becoming Daredevil again, and him shifting back into Kingpin mode.
Maybe it's time to switch up the protocols.
Then RIP to these rando girls who try to get a selfie from Muse. That's what you get for trying to get a selfie from a serial killer. Not going to end well. He winds up using their bodies to complete his mural. We get a couple more scenes with Kingpin and Vanessa, and she seems bemused by the idea that he's realized that being mayor, like being a good mayor, is a lot like being a good kingpin. Like, my skills are actually doing me well inside the office of mayor. Then most of the scenes of him at the charity dinner are the rich people in New York City basically putting him on warning, like, cross us at your own peril, basically tempting him to go back into Kingpin mode. Like, how would Kingpin of crime deal with all the rich people in New York City? Well, mostly violence and blackmail. So they're kind of implying that he's being pushed back in that direction by all these rich people. Also that he can do this port plan that he wants to pull off eventually. Like, he needs the money from them, he's going to get it one way or another. When they call it a self-serving plan benefiting him and his cohorts, it makes it sound a lot like the undertaking during Daredevil Season 1 in the original Defender series. That was kind of what they did, like their special cabal group was basically trying to buy up a bunch of real estate for their grand plan. I already explained all the specific references that Swordsman gives to him. It's basically a version of what he gets from the other rich people with some more specific references about the anti-vigilante plans that he has, who he's not a big fan of because Swordsman himself is a vigilante. Then he basically leaves the rich people with Vanessa in command because Vanessa is very good at dealing with rich people. Like, they'll get the money out of them one way or another. Cherry then visits Matt, who's learning more about the history of Track 61, where White Tiger was investigating and Muse's lair is, tells him about Muse, what's going on. Then Matt gets the phone call from Angela's mother explaining what she's done, like she's disappeared looking for Muse, essentially. Kingpin then forms his anti-vigilante task force of all the dirtiest cops they can fight. Like, the commissioner's like, these are the dirtiest ones in the bunch. And is basically giving all the Punisher cops the legal right to use any excessive force that they want to, because they've all either been put on notice or gotten reprimanded or gotten in trouble inside the police force because they've been too hardcore. They're not big rule followers, and Kingpin is looking for that. Basically a group of people who are really skilled, really dangerous, and will do whatever he tells them to do. Even though they're pitching this like they're solving the Muse problem first, eventually this will lead to get me Spider-Man, like arrest Spider-Man, arrest Daredevil, arrest Punisher, arrest all the heroes that call themselves vigilantes or heroes. Cole North is a character from the newer Daredevil comics. He winds up being the leader of their group. And we get the scene where Angela winds up being caught by Muse while investigating his lair. Matt basically saying, screw it, I'll become Daredevil again to save her myself. Fine, I'll do it myself, Thanos style. There's a lot of that energy in the episode from both him and for Kingpin. After the suit-up montage, there's a bit of a CG action scene with him running to action. That was a little bit silly. Like, people were complaining about the episode 1 version of this where he did something similar. It did look a little bit rough in the CG department. But I did like the way they intercut Kingpin versus Adam with Daredevil versus Muse fights during the episode at the very end here. Right before Daredevil starts to open up on Muse, Kingpin gives Adam a version of the "when I was a boy" speech. He was doing the speech again. When he was referencing the times that he fought larger men when he was younger using a smaller tool, a great equalizer, that was basically a reference to the time he killed his father. That's what he was talking about. I killed my father with a tool when I was a small boy. And basically uses this fight with Adam to blow off some steam. Like, Adam never had a chance. Like, even if he'd have given him an assault rifle, Adam still would not have been able to beat him. So RIP to Adam, he didn't have to die, but we knew he was going to be dead the minute that Vanessa uttered his name during episode 1. Never before has a dude been more dead than when he cucked the Kingpin. There's just a couple things that you just cannot do inside the MCU, and that is one of them. During the whole Daredevil Muse fight, it seems like they're not giving him his special inhuman powers. So Muse has a couple abilities. He's an inhuman, so he has enhanced strength, enhanced reflexes, but his body is also like a black hole for sensory information, so none of Daredevil's radar sense or his super senses do him any good against Muse, and Muse is already super resilient and fast in a fight. So it's just really, really hard for Daredevil to actually take him down. Generally, the way they play this fight, though, is that Daredevil is able to knock him out pretty easily. Like, he doesn't seem like a really great fighter, but he does seem pretty tough. Chokes him out, doesn't kill him, because remember, he listens to his heartbeat, so he stops just short of killing him. But as he's resuscitating Angela on the table, Muse comes to and runs off, escaping. The way they've explained it, Muse is supposed to be a big character during Season 2, like he'll continue to be a problem for both Kingpin and Daredevil in Season 2, with an escalation. Here's the other question too, because he tells Angela, it's okay, I'm here, like she hears his voice, do you think she now knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil? Because she didn't before, but she's probably going to remember his voice, like, wait a minute, you sound like Matt Murdock. It is always possible that they try to play it like she was too delirious to remember that it was him, like make the association. Kingpin, though, on his side of things, on his fight, does kill Adam, like I said, so RIP to Adam. But overall, of the 2 episodes, I did like episode 6 a little bit more just for the fights that we got at the end of the episode. It generally does feel like we're shifting back into more of an action-oriented mode these last couple of episodes, especially with the Punisher arc coming up too. Not totally sure which episodes the Punisher-Daredevil team-up and those Punisher cops are going to come up in, probably in the next couple, but there are 9 episodes total, so we'll see. And because of all the swordsmen in the episodes, there is supposed to be a Hawkeye Season 2, but they didn't say when they're going to do that. It could wind up being after Secret Wars, though. There was a whole bunch going on, so if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in either of the episodes that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. In my full Episode 7 video, we'll post it next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. CinemaCon is also coming up really soon too, so we should hear more about what's going on with Superman, maybe some more footage, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, all the other big stuff that's happening this year. So whatever winds up happening, of course I will do videos for it. Everybody click here for all my Daredevil episodes, and click here for my brand new Avengers Doomsday video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.